All right, we have ourselves some more sports card hobby drama, and I want to make this video and discuss my thoughts and opinions about it, react obviously to what's going on. And I was in the middle of making my shop expansion video part 3, and in the middle of having lunch, I was like, Geoff Wilson doesn't understand sports cards. A great video made by Dan the Card Man. Go check it out. The link will be down below for you guys if you haven't seen it. That is the inspiration of this video, who he got inspiration from somebody else to make his own video. But I want to talk about it and share everything with you guys. Now, first, whatever your thoughts are on Geoff Wilson, just kind of put them aside and try to go into this video with an open mind and just kind of think to yourself along the way, does this make sense? Does that make sense? Yada, yada, yada. Geoff Wilson, I think about a week or two at this point, made a video, the worst sports card investing advice you'll hear. And on the thumbnail, it has a Jackie Robinson 1954 Topps and a PSA 1 in bright yellow letters above saying, don't do this. Now, the premise of his video, the bad advice that he alludes to is that he constantly hears swirling around, whether it's in person, social media, on YouTube, wherever, is this video was brought to you by my loyal patrons through the channel membership program. Pledge today and receive exclusive perks, benefits, early access to videos, and more. Link in the description. Buy the card, not the grade. And I tell people that all the time. If you guys come to Murph's Card Town or I've seen you at shows, I'm always saying, hey, you like that card, you like that player for whatever reason it may be, then you should buy it. It doesn't matter what the grade is or what the grade isn't. If you like it, you should buy it, right? That's a collector's mindset. So in the video, he goes on and says how this is such bad advice. PSA 10s will always hold the most value, and that the card itself is not going to carry the value. It's the grade on the card. I'm no big PSA fan. We all know this. We can even lump in Beckett, SGC, CGC. It's just 10s in general, right? Not all 10s are the same. We've seen countless times that a PSA 10 is off-centered or has a print line, a dimple, whatever it may be. And we've seen instances where 9s look better. A great example for me is the test tube Mewtwo I bought in a PSA 9 for $600 less than what the PSA 10 was going for at the time, almost a year ago now. The only flaw I could see on that card was maybe a slight off-centering issue. I could care less. The card looked flawless. There was no print lines. There was no dimples, defects, nothing on the card except a smidge off-centered. I can deal with that for the price that I got it and the savings I was receiving. And I'm sure if you were to take a 9 and a 10 of the same card, right? Let's just say it's a 2024 Topps Aaron Judge, for example. In a PSA 9 or any grader's 9 and in a PSA 10 or any grader's 10 and put them side by side, unless there was a blatant defect on the card, wicked off-centered, super soft corner, huge dimple like a crater on the card, the chances of you being really able to notice the difference of the 9 and the 10 probably minuscule, right? Again, unless it's something super dramatic. But the price difference between the two, the 9 and the 10, is light years some cases. Maybe not for those cards because they're cheaper cards, but I'm just trying to use a very simplified example. I didn't watch Geoff Wilson's video. I could really care less, but I do love the comment section that was provided. Now, he does provide a little bit of clarification, but my God, click on this video by Geoff Wilson and just read the comments. They're so funny. So let me just kind of read his response. Lots of people in the comments are pointing out that there are many instances of vintage cards in lower grade with more eye appeal and therefore higher sales prices and appreciation potential than a higher grade copy of the same card. That's true. With vintage, eye appeal matters more. This video was in response to advice about modern cards, and the examples I gave were primarily modern cards. I should have been more clear about that. But that being said, even with vintage cards, don't expect a PSA 6 with really great eye appeal to outperform a PSA 9 or 10 in price appreciation percentage over time. The highest grades historically have outperformed everything both in vintage and in modern. Now, let's circle back here to the thumbnail of a Jackie Robinson 1954 Topps in a PSA 1. I think your thumbnail is very misleading, or you have no idea what you're talking about, or you're out of touch. Maybe it's everything involved. When you're in this comment, you're exampling a PSA 6 compared to a PSA 9 or 10. Any vintage collector will absolutely take an eye appealed card, a great eye appeal card, over a higher grade. Like I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of 9s and 10s may be misleading. The grade could have just been handed to. Maybe that person was in a good mood that day. There's so many reasons why a card should or shouldn't get a grade. Everybody's human at the end of the day. All these grading companies use human employees, with the exception like Tag and like HGA or whatever, but they're never going to be in this kind of a conversation. So circling back to Dan the Cardman's video here, he was able to kind of react and make his own video while the thumbnail for this video from Geoff Wilson was still portraying the Jackie Robinson PSA 1, as now the new thumbnail is of a Michael Jordan, I don't want the video to play, of a Michael Jordan in a PSA 8, the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan in a PSA 8. Let's just ask ourselves this question. Can most collectors, can the average collector really afford vintage cards in a 9 or a 10? Obviously, depending on who the player is, depending on what year it is, depending on who that collector is and how much they can afford. There's so many variables, of course. But just in the grand scheme of things, how many times are we going to see the average collector buy a 9 or a 10 in any grade of any vintage card? Probably not that many. But can they afford a 4, a 5, or a 6? Absolutely. In Geoff Wilson's comment on his own video, he provides the examples of a PSA 6 and then a 9 and a 10. But in this new thumbnail of the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan, it's a PSA 8, which I don't know about you, I don't consider that card vintage. Now I have up here a comment on Geoff Wilson's video that Dan the Cardman has to read in his own video. So on Geoff's video, Sports Card Live said this: Geoff, I was surprised to see this level of misunderstanding of a core hobby philosophy like buy the card, not the grade, come from you. That phrase isn't about ignoring grades or not buying the best you can afford. It's about understanding that a card's true condition, appeal, and value can't be summed up in a single number. There are technically 18 to 20 possible third-party grade labels, but in reality, condition exists on an infinite spectrum. Two PSA 6s can look widely different, something I kind of touched on a little earlier. There are strong 8s, average 8s, and weak 8s, and these variances matter. A PSA 1 with perfect centering and rich color might sell for more than a PSA 2 or 3 that's faded and off-centered, and we've seen that happen many times, especially with vintage. Now, before I continue reading this comment, I do want to kind of insert here that grading really only started and really became a huge phenomenon with vintage cards. There was a way to authenticate the cards. There was a way to determine the condition of it. There's no rhyme or reason why ultra-modern cards that were just printed yesterday should be off-centered, dimples, anything less than like a 9 or a 10 in reality. So getting back to the comment here, buy the best you can afford and buy the card, not the grade, are not mutually exclusive. They're actually complementary. One's about budget strategy, the other's about discernment, which comes from experience and knowledge of the cards. The danger in oversimplifying this idea, as happens in this video, referring to Geoff's video, is that someone new to the hobby, and many newcomers start at your content, which is why this matters, very true, might assume the grade on the label alone tells the whole story and end up overpaying for a card that doesn't deserve the number on the slab. This is a piece of the hobby, context of the hobby that is not discussed enough, that the number on the label or the grader's name on the label does not tell the whole story of that card within that slab. Awful line of thinking, and it's something that needs to be talked about more. That's exactly what buy the card, not the grade is meant to protect against. I hope your audience is reading the comments and gaining a more complete understanding of this important concept. Awesome comment. Super awesome comment. So then Geoff replies to this comment saying, Jeremy, Sports Card Live's name, I was also surprised when you blasted me for upgrading a rare LeBron card from a PSA 9 to a PSA 10, even though the PSA 10 was slightly off-centered like the PSA 9 was. The data clearly shows the PSA 10 copy will appreciate in value much better over many years than the similar looking PSA 9 would have. That's part of the point I was making here. Now, sure, a 10 will appreciate more. And at the beginning of Geoff's video, he even mentions investing, price point, highest sales, this and that. Nothing really about your true collection. Yeah, do you want your collection to be worth value, worth money down the road? Then you have to focus on 10s. Sure thing. Again, how many people can either afford the 10s or even want to pay for the 10s, let alone be able to afford them? There's a huge difference. And I think a lot of people may not know that there is this difference between collecting and investing. If you want to invest, you have to get into something for the right price point and you have to watch it mature over time. If you are collecting, you don't care about the grade. You probably really don't care about the value. You just care about whatever it is you are collecting. Geoff would go on to say, that said, I do understand when it comes to vintage cards that eye appeal makes a big difference. All of the examples I gave were modern cards, so I thought it was obvious I was talking about modern cards, but I should have specified. Completely agree. You do absolutely need to specify because people will 100% misunderstand you, take something the wrong way. And then Sports Card Live Jeremy responds to Geoff. Geoff, this may sting a little, so let's walk through this together. You opened the video by calling buy the card, not the grade, really bad advice. 5 reallys. Then you called it horrific with zero context, no nuance, just a sweeping condemnation. You literally criticized other influencers in this video for giving advice without context, and then spread the rest of the video doing exactly that yourself. You started with the 1986 Fleer Jordan, a card that is infamous for off-centered PSA 10s and frequent crack and re-sub activity. Plenty of the PSA 10s out there were originally PSA 9s the first time they were graded by PSA. And if investors think a 10 is a 10 forever, they're going to be in for a rude awakening when they realize how subjective grading really is. You did run through several modern examples, then included a 1979 O-Pee-Chee Gretzky. Most consider this vintage, myself included, and then closed with 1952 Topps Mantle as your grand finale, the exclamation point on your entire argument. You also said the logic applies to the most iconic cards of all time. If this was only about modern, that message definitely got lost somewhere between Gretzky, Mantle, and the phrase all time. Never mind the card on the thumbnail, which again was the Jackie Robinson 1954 Topps in a PSA 1, which is vintage. Come on! He says, this is exactly why the phrase buy the card, not the grade exists. Not to ignore value, but to remind people that the label is not the whole story. True. And sure, PSA 10s usually sell for more than 9s. No one is arguing that, myself included, but lumping all 10s together, or 9s, or 8s, etc., when you use market movers data to support your position, data that is blind to quality of the card itself relative to its grade. Agreed. If you have this 8, that 8, and a third 8, they all may look different because one's off-centered, one has a soft corner, and one has a print line, right? Data that is blind to quality of the card itself relative to its grade, where the standards are inconsistently applied, is exactly what the advice warns people not to do. Buy the card, not the grade. Sometimes an 8 may look better than a 9. Sometimes a 9 may look better than a 10. If you want the damn card, you should buy the card, whatever you can afford, because you want the card. You even said you would upgrade your LeBron 10 if a better one came along, so you knowingly bought a lesser copy just to have the 10. That is exactly the mindset this advice challenges. Collect and invest how you want, build your 10 set, compete on a registry. It is all fair game, but calling this the worst advice in the hobby while using average data, contradicting your own examples, and ending on a vintage mantle just does not hold up. I look forward to seeing you at the National. If you ever want, oh man, I would love to be there for that conversation. Geoff should have this Sports Card Live guy on his Sports Card Investor show, his Geoff Wilson show, whatever it may be. So I want to end this video with a question to you. Do you prefer to buy the card and not the grade? Or do you only care about the grade on the card and the translatable value that is associated with 10s, specifically PSA 10s? Again, all 9s to me are the same. I don't care what company they are. One will not have more value than the other. If we want to talk about vintage cards, absolutely, we can have that conversation. But vintage cards and modern cards are in completely different boats. They are completely different categories, and they deserve to have completely different conversations. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, because this is a conversation that I didn't know we needed to have. Having different philosophies in this hobby, in this space, is nothing new, but the fact that we're only going to care about a certain grade and not the card itself, or a certain label and not the player or card itself, is a little astonishing to me. Maybe it's because I'm a collector and Geoff Wilson isn't. I don't know, but let me know, guys, down in the comment section. I would definitely love to hear, read, and reply to any and all comments that you may have. Smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new or haven't considered subscribing. Check out the channel membership program, and if you enjoyed this video, guys, I've queued up an excellent video right there for you that I do believe will be excellent for your hobby endeavors. Hopefully, I'll see you in that one.